And what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Bill Ridgway. I have known Bill personally for a while, and I trust him to graciously provide us information to set this team up for success and individually for success. So I am going to turn it over to you, Bill, to go ahead and get started.
Okay. First of all, I got to figure out how to minimize my screen because I can't get to my docs because the screen took up the whole. And it said hit escape to return to a smaller screen, but there it goes. Okay. 27 going on 28 years of experience, and I've seen probably 6 of these types of events in my career. First, what I'd like to do is just throw up my resume. You can, I think, can you print off of Zoom?
Yes.
Yes.
You should be able to go into your whatever you have it in.
Yeah, let me see here.
Down bottom.
Right. Let me see what I got here.
Share screen.
Can you see that?
Yep. Not very big. It's kind of small.
It's huge on my end. Well, let me just run through it. It's my resume. If you'd like to print it off, please feel free to. As I said, I started in 1993 at Anderson and Strudwick, and I worked there till 2008, at which point I was on the board of directors and the 3rd largest shareholder, and we ended up selling the firm to Stern AG, at which point I moved to Capital Securities in 2008, which many of my team members came with me, and the market was 08, 09 was terrible. So I spent 2.5 years studying to pass my certified financial planning designation, which took about 3 years and 6 to 8 graduate level classes. And so I am a fiduciary, and I work with small businesses as well as high net worth individuals. And my philosophy is pretty plain vanilla. I have my thoughts are, if my clients can't understand it, then I'm not doing a good job. And I rely heavily in my investment management on very high quality investments with dividends, and on top of that with dividend growth. So I work in a lot of household names that many of you would probably be familiar with if I threw up my list of what I own and what I've been recommending. As far as my career is concerned, I've always held myself to the fiduciary level even before I became a legal fiduciary. And so I pride myself in integrity, professionalism, and honesty. And I am a straight shooter, and I don't get into any esoteric products that I can't understand, my clients won't be able to understand. So what I work in is very easy to understand and very simple to understand. And I wanted to, here's my resume, and you can see, if you like to print it off, you can take a look. I also would suggest doing this not only with me, but with your current advisors, just to do a little bit of a checkup. Go to at your own convenience, go to www.finra, F-I-N-R-A, brokercheck.org. And if you look up William Ridgway without an E, it'll show you my disciplinary history and background, which is 0. I do not have a single disclosure on my U4. It's like our pedigree since 1993. And that's one way to check your advisor to see if he's been in trouble in the past and what he's been in trouble for. Very few people have 0 disclosures on their U4 if they've been in the business an extended period of time. I'm proud to say that I don't even have a customer complaint in my 28 years in this business. So that's one suggestion I would make, just to kind of check up on your broker to make sure that he does clean business and is held in high standard with the regulators. So there's my resume. That's a little bit about me. I'm going to switch screens here and come back to me. Now, my face should be, can you see, am I taking up the whole screen, guys? I saw your lips, Joan, say yes, you're muted, but I saw that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is first I'm gonna go over a brand new law that may or may not, but probably will affect many people on this call, and it's called the Secure Act. And it has to do with the rule changes in the small business retirement plans as well as IRAs. And I'm going to go ahead and try to share some, I'm going to share a one-pager, and then I've got a deck in front of me that I am going to look at and run through the presentation, but you don't need a 25-page deck. So what I've done is I've got a one-pager to run through the new rules of the Secure Act and how it may impact you. Now, I'm going to take not a whole lot of time on this because it is about an hour presentation, but I'm going to distill it to about 15 minutes so we can get into today's current market and economic environment and what my feelings are about how to make it through these times and actually thrive. And so let me go ahead and start with the Secure Act because I think it's some very important information. I'm going to go ahead and throw up the one pager that I have, and then I'll begin my presentation on the Secure Act. Let's see, where are you? There we go. Oops. Okay, let me get rid of this other one. Can you see this document that I've got up? Don?
I can't see. I can't see all of it.
Now, can you? I just expanded the screen. You can see that?
I've got so many things going up on mine. How about somebody else? Joan? Let's see. Joan?
Probably would do better if you verbalize it, just due to the fact that it is broader, but
And I'm sure this is small too.
We see you scrolling.
yes.
If you'd like, I can just I can take this down and go through the bullet points, or I can just go through the bullet points real quick on this. Okay, let me just take this down. All right. Stop share. Okay. The Secure Act was passed on May 23rd, 2019, and it moved to the Senate and for further consolidation, and actually the final version was passed on December 20th, 2019, and it's called the Secure Act. And the major provisions of this act were to encourage small employers to open or enhance their retirement plans, tax credits met safe harbor provisions, increase annuity options within retirement plans, and IRA changes for both contributions and distributions under the new law. The biggest change of the law is the loss of the stretch provision upon inheriting an IRA. So the stretch provision allowed you to leave your IRA upon death to your wife or your children or whoever your designated beneficiaries are. Now, the designated beneficiary was allowed to use their life expectancy, thus to extend the distribution period on average about 30 years. So let's just say a 45-year-old was to inherit a $1 million IRA. They would have 38 years or 35 to 38 years to use their calculated required minimum distribution to just take a small portion of the IRA out each and every year, thus limiting the tax impact and the tax consequences. Well, Congress has done away with that except for your spouse. So if you leave your IRA to your spouse, you pass away and leave it to your spouse still is allowed to use their life expectancy to calculate the required minimum distribution. And let's just say that your spouse is 70. Typically, that allows about a 20 to 22 year distribution period. That has not changed. What has changed is if you have your children as beneficiaries, or anyone else for that matter, you have 10 years to have that IRA completely distributed and the taxes paid. And there is no formula saying, well, you have to divide it over 10 years, X amount each year. The rule is basically after 10 years, all of the money needs to be taken out of the IRA by the non-spousal beneficiary. So what this would trigger is a need for most of my clients to review their beneficiary designations as well as their trust documents, because there's going to be many things that become stale if you own a trust as far as how your money's distributed. And if you do have half of your money going to, say, your wife or husband and the other half going to your children, then maybe it'd be a good time to put it all in your wife's name and then allow your wife to leave it to your children. That's one of the many things that can be done. Secondarily, with this new rule, the Roth IRA becomes much, much more valuable. So to avoid this big tax hit of having IRAs distributed within a 10-year period, you can, and I use 7 years, take a 7 or 8 year period and slowly convert your IRA into a Roth IRA, because Roth IRAs, as many of you may or may not know, the income is distributed tax-free because it's after-tax money, and there is no date at which you have to take it out. And so the Roth IRA has become a much, much more valuable tool. It's one of the last safe havens on the tax front that's a true safe haven besides the 529 and tax-free bonds. So that would be one strategy. Let's see. We talked about the 10-year rule. The exceptions to the 10-year rule are spouses, beneficiaries not more than 10 years younger, the chronically ill, and the disabled. So those 4 categories can still use the stretch option for stretching out the required minimum distributions over their life expectancy. Now, successor beneficiaries. Successor beneficiaries are beneficiaries stacked underneath the primary beneficiary. So let's just say you put your wife or husband as your primary, and you put your children on there as a secondary after your spouse passes away. Successor beneficiaries of those grandfathered in will have to start a 10-year distribution period. Now, there are 2 dates that we want to keep in mind here, because they've also extended, and this is actually beneficial, they've extended the required minimum distribution age from 70 and a half to 72 years old. And the dates are as such. Here we go. People that had to satisfy RMDs in 2019 and earlier are grandfathered and will continue to be able to use the stretch feature.